Welcome back to OnOne Photo Raw 2020. And today we're going to take a look at a couple more aspects of the edit menu. And the first thing we're going to go ahead and take a look at is the crop tool. The crop tool is located right up here, and that little symbol is called a scaleograph. And that little tool was used to check the ratios to make sure that the ratio of your film was going to fit in the ratio of your ad. We'll go ahead and click on the crop tool, and that's going to give us this little bounding box around our image. We can grab any one of these points and drag in, and it's going to allow us to change the crop of the image. Now this is important. We are changing the ratio of the image. Photo Raw works non-destructively, meaning it's never actually applying these adjustments to the image. All you're really seeing is a preview, and it's keeping log of these in a separate file. So at any point, if we want to go back and readjust our image, even after we close out, we can just click on it and all that information is going to be there. And you'll notice there's no like save button in here when you make these adjustments. As you make them, it automatically records everything. So there's no need to come in here and save anything to your image. Now, if you want to move the image around, you can go into this window, click, hold, and you get that little hand, and it's going to allow you to move your image around. Right up here, we're under freeform at this point. I can change the ratio. I can go to the original ratio, which is going to be 2:3 because this is a 35 millimeter. We can do square, 3:4, anything that we'd want. So I can just come down here and do 3:4. But at any time, I could come in here and I'll just go to the height, and I'm going to select the height. I'm going to make that a 2. And if I hit that, it's going to allow me to do a custom size. And at this point, I'm doing a 4:2 ratio. A ratio is not a size. So if I was to come up here and do 4:5, if I needed to print this out, I'd still need to change the image size at some point. It's just the 4:5 ratio. It's not resizing your image. Important to know. The next thing that we have here is a level button. So you can see I have an uneven horizon line. And it's supposed to be like that. But if you have something in architecture or horizon line or something in an image you want level, you're going to go ahead and click on level. You're going to click, hold, drag over to the other spot, and it's going to level that line. So when I let go, it automatically levels that line. I'm going to go ahead and come over here and hit reset because we don't want to do that. We can go right in here. We can automatically or manually change the angle. Or a little bit easier is if you kind of drag in and you want to rotate your image, you just go outside of the bounding box. You get that little circle, you click and hold, and then you kind of move. And you can rotate your image however much you want. This will do it counterclockwise or clockwise in 90-degree increments. And once you're done cropping, if you want to apply the crop, you just hit, you will apply or reset the crop. The next thing that we have here is a transform tool. So the transform tool is going to be able to allow you to manipulate your image. So I can come in here and say, hey, I don't want this to be at 100%. I want it to be smaller. So I'll go ahead and type in 50% and hit return, and it's going to make this 50% of the size that it was just at. Just like you could before, you can also grab these little tabs over here and you can manipulate those. So I can kind of go in and it's going to squish my picture. It's not conforming to the scale or the ratio. It's literally allowing me to manually just kind of transform or squish this image. I don't think this is the most helpful thing inside photography, but you never know when you might need something like this. Right here, you have the ability to rotate this image. We can once again do it clockwise or counterclockwise, and then hit escape. So we get out of that. But what I'm going to do, this one's actually kind of helpful. So this will allow us to flip it vertically, and this will allow us to flip it horizontally, or I can go vertically. So we can actually have the horse running in the opposite direction. And this will kind of fill your canvas. So remember when we kind of cropped it down, if you wanted it to go back to where it was and fill, you just click that button. So you can also hit cancel to not apply anything that we did, which we're going to do, or you can hit apply to apply those changes. In this case, we're just going to hit cancel so we don't do anything to the image. The next thing is a text button. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the text button, and the little text window pops up with some fake text. And I will change this to horse. Realize that. And it's automatically doing the type in white, which is perfectly fine. We can change the font up here. Now, to change the font, you actually need to select the type that you want to change. And we can come up here and I'll just pick something that looks a lot different. Doesn't really look so good. And that's okay. I'm not really worried about the font that I have. If I want to change the size of the font, I can come in here and change the size of the font. I can make it bigger or larger. This is going to allow me to change the color. I have some little pencils down here and I can just click a pencil and then everything up here is going to change the color. We're not seeing it here yet. We're just seeing it here. This is the color that we're getting. We have the availability to use this kind of weird spectrum thing. So I can click anywhere in there and it's going to give me that color up here. We have some swatches that we have already pre-done and they're down here. I can pick the purple one. It's going to give me purple. I also have swatches down here, and these can be ones that I've saved or used before that I might want to reapply. You can also use this color picker to pick from anywhere. So I can take this color picker and I can pick from inside here, but I can also pick from inside of my image. So if I wanted to pick a color of my image, I could come over here and it would automatically pick that color. Next thing we have are some sliders. So we have some grayscale, RGB, CMYK, and HSB sliders. And the last thing that we have is a color wheel. So I can come in here and pick from the color wheel and get any color that I want, or I could just pick right in the center and go back to white. Once I'm done picking all that information that I want, I can change this to bold, italic, underline, justified left, centered right. And then I can click outside that box and then I can grab this and move it to where I want. So I can make this at the location that makes me happy. I can reduce this text box size if I need to be. I don't need it to be that big for just one word. And I can place that image right there and I am set and ready to go. The next thing that we have is the local adjust, or what I call selective adjustment. Now we did this in the last video, so we're going to skip this. We're going to skip the faces for right now because this is a retouching issue. And we're going to skip mask and refine. And I'm going to come and do a separate tutorial just on these, because we need some other aspects or really two images to make this work. But what we're going to do is we're going to click on the retouching option right here. And right up here, we have an eraser tool. And the eraser tool is really easy because whatever I go over, it's going to remove. So I have some little horse right there in the sand. I can paint over there. It's analyzing it and it's just going to go ahead and fill that in with whatever it thinks it should look like. Now, usually this does a pretty good job, but sometimes it might mess something up. And if you'd have that case, just hit Command Z, which is undo. So you can see up here, it's edit and Z, undo. And that would be Control Z usually on a PC. Or you can clean that up with the stamp tool, and I'll show you how to use the stamp tool too. Next thing that we have here is the retouching brush, and this is used for like pimples and acne or dust spots or anything that you would want to remove. We can easily just kind of zoom in here to the horse and I can show you how this works. So we can try to find something that we don't like on him. Oh, so he's got this little flap of skin I noticed that's hanging off his front lip. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to paint over that and it's going to try to remove that. Now what happens is it looks at the area around the image and tries to replace it. And you can see it did a horrible job. It picked some areas here and it picked some areas here and it just doesn't look. Occasionally when you get to edge areas, those type of functions don't work so good. So what we'll do is we will just change this and we will move the guy over and we'll just remove some of this stuff. So we will come and click on the retouching area. We'll click on the Band-Aid and this should probably work pretty good. We're just going to remove some of these lines or little spots on the thing. It's analyzing the area around and filling it in. And usually in those situations, it's doing a pretty good job. It's just reading. And since that area is very similar, it's filling that in and not having a problem. The last thing is, and I'm going to get that clone stamp. Now the clone stamp is going to stamp or clone any specific area. Now this is kind of a small little location right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make this brush a lot smaller. We also have a feather here, but since this is a very tight area that I want, I'm going to reduce this feather. And then we're going to come in here and I'm going to clone an area. And since I want to clone the sky, I'm just going to click out here. And then what that's going to allow me to do is kind of go into this little area. I'm just going to paint not on his lip, but just over that area. And it's going to actually automatically replace one area with another. So I took the sky area that I picked. And if you look kind of down to the right, there's a little kind of a plus symbol. That's showing you the area that you're cloning from. We just kind of clone the one area over top of the others. Just to make so it makes sense to see what we're doing, we're going to do something ridiculous. So we're going to come up here. And the way I'm picking the spot is I'm holding the Alt Option key down, and then I'm going to click. And that's saying I want to take this eye or this point and clone it right here. So now he's going to have eyes. Why? Well, because I cloned one eye over the other. And that's how you use the cloning functions inside of OnOne Photo Raw. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe.